Good morning, my dear students. I think you have known something about the theory of subjective idealism of Berkeley. What we have today is also the second part of the theory of the subjective idealism of Berkeley. It is a continuation. Today we will discuss about the arguments for the subjectivity of primary qualities. But we know that, and we have discussed the essence or backbone of the subjective idealism of Berkeley has been discussed in the previous class. From the discussions, in a nutshell, what we know is that according to Berkeley, matter is nothing but it is a cluster of qualities. The external world, what we see is the cluster of qualities. These cluster of qualities are the ideas of the mind. These qualities are the ideas of the mind. Whether it may be primary qualities or it may be secondary qualities or other properties of the qualities. All these things are the ideas of the mind. The existence of the external objects, which are constituted by these qualities, are dependent on our mind, or what we call consciousness. Mind or consciousness is the only reality. This is the ultimate reality, and there is no any existence apart from the sensibility of or consciousness. From the discussions, we noticed. And again, this one also, we know that Berkeley admits the existence of two realities, finite mind and the infinite mind. The ideas of the external world, must be within the sensibility of within the range of the perception of finite mind and infinite mind. So according to the discussions, after we have discussed the essence or the backbone of the theory of the idealism, we know that Berkeley is a subjective idealist, and his theory is known as theory of subjective idealism. Today, we are going to discuss about the second part of the subjective idealism of Berkeley. It is the continuation, and this one is what we like to discussed today is arguments for the subjectivity of the primary qualities. We all know that according to Locke, what we have seen is that the external world external objects has two qualities, primary qualities and secondary qualities, and the primary qualities is entirely independent of our mind. The primary qualities, the existence of the primary qualities are free from our mind, but the existence of the secondary qualities are dependent on the perceiver. What we have known is, what I have discussed is the concept of the John Locke. But according to Berkeley, in his philosophy, in his theory, what we find is that both the primary qualities and the secondary qualities are subjective. No other external things are there beyond the reach of our mind. So let us proceed. The topic: arguments for the subjectivity of the primary qualities. Now let us see. Let me change your direction now look at the topic: theory of subjective idealism of the Berkeley. As I have already told you that this is the second part, and it is a continuation of the theory of the subjective idealism of the Berkeley. Today we are going to discuss about the arguments for the subjectivity of the primary qualities. Now I mentioned you that primary qualities are not subjective, as Locke mentioned. According to Locke, primary qualities are not subjective. They are free from our mind. They have the independent existence. But now here, when we come to the philosophy of George Berkeley, what we find is that these primary qualities are not free from our mind. They are also subjective. So his first point is primary qualities of John Locke are subjective, and he is going to prove this. At first, the primary qualities, extension, solidity, shape, number, rest, and motion are perceived by mind. I think we must agree this. From the picture, now on this screen, from the picture of on the right side of the screen, you see here two pictures. One is the shape of a box, or the solar system. We know that the box, according to Locke, the shape of this box is static. And when we discuss about the solar system, we know that the earth moves around the sun, and when it moves, it takes 365 days and a few fraction of times. We all agree this. But the solar system or the shape of the box are all perceived by our mind. Their existence are perceived by our mind. If we do not perceive their existence, we may not be able to recognize these objects or these systems. Similarly, let us see on the right side of the screen the color, taste of an object, say whether it may be sweet or bitter. All these things are secondary qualities because they are all dependent on the person who perceives. Color may be different from one person to another. The taste may be different from one person to another. In the same case, there is no change in connection with the perception of the shape and the solar system, shape and the motion. Therefore, their primary qualities are also ideas of the mind because they are perceived. They are sensible qualities. Now from this argument we know that both the primary qualities and the secondary qualities are subjective. And now let us come to the second argument of Judge Berkeley, inseparability of qualities. The qualities of the objects cannot be separated. The primary qualities and the secondary qualities cannot be perceived apart from each other. Let us see on the screen. On the left side of this screen, now you see a foreign passport here. Now let us try to abstract the qualities and the properties of the object, the properties of the qualities of this object, the foreign passport. When we begin to abstract the qualities, you will see here the beginning of the deterioration, the beginning of the gradual disappearance of this passport. You will see here. If we have extracted the qualities, disappearance or the deterioration of the object started. In the same way, the physical body we see here on the screen, the physical body of a woman is seen. Now, the body is also constituted by the qualities. If we abstract the qualities next by next, the properties, the constituted properties, we will see here the decayation, the declination of the parts of the body, and we can see here the disappearance of the physical body when we started the separation of the secondary qualities from the body. Therefore, from this, we know that the qualities cannot be separated. Extension, figure, motion cannot be abstracted. If their abstraction from all the qualities are inconceivable. We cannot conceive the existence of the extension, figure and motion apart from their qualities. In the same case will happen here also. A bunch of money is here. When we start the abstraction of the qualities, when we remove the qualities of the paper, then the recognition of the bunch of the money started. It will decline. It will disappear. Ultimately, we can see nothing. Once the qualities have been abstracted, the physical body, extension, figure, motion, we will not recognize. We will not be able to recognize them, and they will disappear. And now, the another argument is every object has constant and continuous change. Nothing is static. According to Locke, what we have known is that the primary qualities are static. Say like weight is static, extension is static. Therefore, say rectangular shape or the square shape or a sphere, these are the extension. These are the shape. These primary qualities are fixed and static. Weight is static. But when we come to the philosophy of John Berkeley, these primary qualities, extension, weight, shape, motion, etc., like the secondary qualities, appear different to different persons. So now let us see two pictures on the screen. Two persons are trying to lift the heavy stone. On the left screen, what we see is that when the person is trying to lift the heavy stone, it seems that he felt very heavy. And from the screen, on the left side of the screen, what we see is that the same stone, for the same stone, when another person lift very easily, it seems that he can lift the stone very easily. Same object, but different persons. But the qualities are, the perception of the qualities are different, appear different to different persons. We know from this example. And again, these qualities appear different to the same person at different times under different conditions. So for example, when a man touches the water in a glass, containing in a glass, he may feel hot. But after some time, when he touches the same water, he feels that it is cold. Different conditions, different times, different situations, the same object have different sensations. Therefore, there is no static. Every object has constant, continuous sense, nothing is static. So primary qualities are also not static. They are the secondary, their qualities or their position is also just like the position of the secondary qualities. No difference between primary qualities and secondary qualities. They are so perceived by our mind. Therefore, primary qualities are subjective. They are dependent on our mind. They cannot exist apart from our mind. Now, after we have discussed the three arguments, 3 points of the arguments given by Judge Berkeley, we may come to the conclusion that the external world does not exist, and consequently the qualities of the world, both primary and secondary, are subjective ideas of the mind. Now we are coming to this conclusion. Say, the outside world, let us see, hot or cold, bright or dark, sweet or sour, fragrant or foul smelling. We can see these differences. But their difference we can recognize only when we have the sensation, only we have the perception of these things. But the outside world is neither hot nor cold, neither bright nor dark, neither sweet or sour, neither fragrant nor foul smelling. Only when we perceive, only when we smell the thing, we know that this is fragrant or this is foul smelling. Only when we taste the object, we know that it is sweet or it is sour. So, there is nothing in the outside world. The outside world is nothing, no existence beyond our perception, beyond the perception of the mind, beyond the perception of the consciousness. Their existence is recognized only when they are in touch with the mind and within the range of its sensations. So the recognition of the existence of all things is dependent on our mind. Now this is the argument of Judge Berkeley for the subjectivity of the primary qualities. And coming to the process of the subjective idealism. Now we know that Judge Berkeley is a subjective idealist and his philosophy is known as theory of subjective idealism.